Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Hope you all are having a fantastic Tuesday afternoon. It's gonna be a great show tonight. Got a very awesome guy here with me. He's got like an incredible amount of just like cool experience to hear about. So thank you so much for being here. I see Fat Chicken Nug. Fat Chicken Nug is here. All right. And RJ Stubbs is here. Shiloh is here. Ben is here. Electron is here. And I also just want to say thank you to Ben and Electron. You guys have been in this chat waiting for the past like hour. So that's like really cool. So thanks, guys. All right. So without further ado, let me bring in my guy, Patrick. How's it going, man?
Very good. Very good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on. Thanks for thanks for everything that you do and all that stuff. But I don't know, just to get right into it, tell me a little bit about Patrick, and then tell me a little bit about Toy Photog FR.
Okay. Just probably like, I know quite a few photographers, got started on YouTube and stuff kind of through the pandemic and stuff. So how I got started in toy photographer was during the pandemic. I watched a lot of channels, especially yours. Was really intrigued. I thought you were doing a lot of things that I hadn't seen done. The fact that you're using practical, shooting fireworks, capturing these fantastic images, great posing, great lighting. And then you started kind of teaching about it. It wasn't until you started just capturing, but then you started teaching, showing others. So that's kind of inspired me to do sort of something similar.
Cool.
And to, get out there and kind of, show the toy photography craft. How I got toy photographer is when I was first moving to Rhode Island, I was thinking of getting a new license plate, and I was going to do photographer like that. So I actually saw a Connecticut plate that had something like that. And I was like, oh, it's so cool. So I was like, I'm going to do that when I go to Rhody. And then at one point, I had left my job at Apple as a lead creative, and I went to lo and behold, Hasbro here. So when I did that, I branded myself with that name and an email, basically. So I kind of had that for a while. And about a year ago, I decided that, you know what, I wanted to share my my Star Wars love and passion, as well as my passion for photography, by collecting the Star Wars Funko Pop. And as they say, you want to take what you're passionate about and everything, and that's kind of your niche. So if that's my niche, that's what it is. So I started photographing that and just having fun, just going out and doing some creative images. So that's how that all got kind of started.
And what a perfect way, amalgamation of all of those things together of toy photography. That's why we all love it. So that's really cool.
Yeah, trust me, there's quite a bit of times that I am inspired by all the other toy photographers out there, whether it's you, other people on the channel, Matt Ma Films, stuff like that. There's so many great photographers out there, and what I always get envious of, I kind of buried myself when I picked my niche with my Star Wars Funko Pop, and I can never pose them as cool as you guys do. So I'm like,
well, sometimes the Funko Pops
right.
Are
so
already posed, which is nice.
I depend heavily on a quality Funko Pop, whether the sculpt and the design. I really, and like my friend and I, Christopher from Seriously Star Wars, and I do our podcast, the Star Wars Popcast. And that's one of the things that we kind of talk about, is how they've really kind of changed very recently. The quality, the sculpts, the detailing. They don't have the cheesy hero pose anymore with the arms like this. I mean, they're really good. Yeah. Those new Return of the Jedi ones are going to be phenomenal. So yeah,
they've come a long way.
Yeah, so we kind of really have enjoyed that, and it's made it a lot more enjoyable for me to photograph because the quality of the pops and the sculpts and designs become so much better.
Yeah, and it really is cool to see how far they've come. Sorry, I'm kind of messing around with trying to get this all to fit in here. But so this is Patrick's Instagram. If you're not following him already, he basically explained it and mentioned it before. It's Toy Photog FR. So I like anytime I say it, I've been saying Toy Photog FR.
Yeah, that's how you can say it easily. It's just Toy Photog.
I like Toy Photog. Toy Photog FR.
Yeah, that's kind of like you say it, like you're looking at a license plate.
That's better. Yeah, I've been saying it like a noob, basically.
Don't even worry about it.
And look at that, Shiloh's over here. She said she just started following.
Nice, thank you, Shiloh.
Awesome. Comic Dad's here. Siva's here. Stubbs, thank you all you guys for being here. Really appreciate it. Silver Moon, Thank you guys. So you are primarily, I would say even exclusively, you're a Funko Pop photographer, right?
Yeah, that's with this. I like, we were talking a little bit prior to this. I photograph a lot of different things, whether it be the day job or whatnot. So I wanted to do something completely different. So a lot of times I've been asked, because they always see the iPhone. And
Yeah.
again, having worked for Apple, I'm a big proponent and evangelist of how much an iPhone can do. So anyone that's out there, there's even a book that someone wrote when the first iPhone came out about iPhone photography. It's the camera that you have, right?
Mhm.
It's the camera that you have, how you can use it, and it's a great example. So I wanted to challenge myself to be able to shoot it on an iPhone. Could I shoot it with my Hasselblad? Could I shoot it with my Canons? Absolutely. I can bring out the 4x5, you name it, I can shoot it. But I wanted to challenge myself and use an iPhone, which was kind of, for me, one, to make sure I can get the quality, and two, can I make it simple? Can I make this easy for someone else to do?
It's
And,
inspiring.
and demystify it. Yes.
It is. It's cool because a lot of times, and definitely been in this situation many times, even now, but especially when I was first starting, where I would see a beautiful photo and just be like, wow, that's amazing. And then I'll see like behind the scenes and I'll just see all this stuff that I don't know anything about, like all these complicated camera stuff and fancy equipment and all these things I'm just so clueless about. And that can feel discouraging. And I know that
Absolutely.
feeling. But when
Absolutely.
you
Well,
see a video like
we're
this,
at that time too, right? Where digital has kind of done so much, right? So I think I always say, when I first graduated college, came to New York City to work as an assistant, when I went to Jacob Javits Center to the photo expo, it was, a corner of that room was digital and everything else was film. Now, if you can find a table or a small corner that's dedicated to film and that stuff, where everything else is digital, and that happened within 3 to 4 years. Like I got to bear witness to that and be in the crux of it and everything. At one point, I was a Fuji film rep, so like being in that, it was really neat to see that big switch. Um,
yeah,
even in the commercial studios, going from 8x10s, you shoot and expose an 8x10 Polaroid, so you didn't waste that giant celluloid, right? You want to nail that image, and you don't have too much room for error. So going from that to then leaf camera backs, where it was a 3-pass, that was new, right? And that was exciting. And then to move on from that, where you're shooting a single capture digital SLR. I think when I got my first Canon DSLR, I got was it a D60? And I think I still use that once in a blue moon, just as like, I don't have to worry about any, I can take it to the beach. You know what I mean? That's the camera. If I need to go shoot in sand, that's coming with me, because whatever I'm going to need for my usage here is just for me, and it's not really commercial. But I've taken many a commercial image of that camera back in its day, so it's
Yep.
it's tried and true. It's it's
Yeah,
not
and
it's not the equipment. It's the imagination
of
and what
course.
you have in your how you execute it, and that's all it is.
Look at this, awesome. And so, what I was thinking too is, when you see a photo like this, and you're like, oh, that looks really good, obviously, and then you see you're behind the scenes, and you're like, oh, this is just computer screen and an iPhone. Like, oh, I can do that.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
it's inspiring to
And
see
if you
how.
see, I have a newer video with a Boba Fett where he's from the sunset from like the Mandalorian finale of season 1. And what was really cool is I've introduced something new where I think he's up a little bit. You'll find him. I actually introduced being able to use a 3D model. So when I shot that Boba Fett, I was able to move so I can get the twin suns exactly where I wanted them, and that blew me away.
That's awesome.
And
I'm trying to find Boba now.
Yeah, if you scroll down just a little bit, right there to the left.
This one?
Up one.
Oh, this Boba. Sorry, I was
There you go.
expecting
This
someone to
is
say Boba.
really fun, being able to do 3D modeling, because you feel so that's just a little teaser, but it's on YouTube. But when you check it out, what's really cool is being able to move that. And I just recently did that with another one I did for Boss. after watching so many of the new Bad Batch episodes and seeing the Clone Commandos, I got excited. I was like,
Yeah.
all right, where's my Gaming Greats boss? I searched for it in my collection, grabbed them out, and I was like, oh, you know what? I want to try that 3D modeling again. And I got so into it. I usually have that kind of like where I show the pop and then pull the camera back and then shoot, an image of me shooting it. I got so excited playing with that, I forgot and just went right into shooting the image and all the other pieces. But it's absolutely like a game changer. And what was fun about those is I went to Galaxy's Edge in October, and my brother-in-law and I did the Halcyon, the Starship Cruiser, the whole night.
Oh, you did?
We celebrated my 50th in style, my friend. Absolutely.
That's cool.
So yeah, so we geeked out for 2.5 days. And meanwhile, I'm going through Galaxy's Edge first thing in the morning. I'm waking up at the crack of dawn, the first shuttle I can get to Galaxy's Edge. I'm there. I'm walking I'm almost getting shin splints. I'm walking so fast, but I got images with nobody in front of the Falcon and all these images. I went around early morning and photographed these. That's a backdrop from Galaxy's Edge. So
okay.
Some of the most recent ones, some of the
awesome.
backdrops have actually been photographs I've taken purposely to use for this.
That's really cool, actually. So
yeah,
Lee Bedford in the chat is asking, how large is the digital screen behind subject?
Not that big. It's
looks like it's just a laptop screen, right?
It's a little bigger than a laptop screen. It's probably
maybe
30
27
inches, maybe about 27, 30 inches.
Yeah, that's not too bad. That's a very reasonable size, and I would say that's probably a little bigger than a laptop, but that's like a bigger laptop screen, and
absolutely.
Like, I love how approachable your style is, and I mean that in the best possible way, because the photos not only come out beautiful and immersive and crisp and clean, but you see it and you're like, that's so cool. Like it makes people want to get into it, and because it's inspiring, and I think is so important, because all of us here we love toy photography, and the better, the more people see it and want to get into it,
100%,
and the better it is for all of us. So that's what you're working.
I think people I don't know if you hear this. People are always like, well, why would you show people what you do? Aren't you afraid they're going to do the same thing? No, I encourage that. I encourage it, because like it's in here. It's what you have in your imagination is what you're going to pull. And you might have the same idea, but 5 people in the room shooting the same thing, each one of them are going to be different, right? They're going to put their own unique spin, your own style. So it's
mimicry is the greatest form of flattery.
Yeah, absolutely. Pass on what you've learned, Yoda said, right? So come on.
Yeah, I am right there with you. So that's really cool. So that's one of the things I really like about your work. And so I know you're mentioning earlier too, and here's basically a preview of it, that not only are you on Instagram, but you put a lot of work into your YouTube channel. So tell me a little about that.
So I kind of got it again, kind of getting into it. It started as just literally a lark looking into this, because my kids said, Dad, I'm going to get monetized when I grow up. So 13 and 15-year-old telling you they want to get monetized. It's like, okay, let's just monetize. I'll see if you're right. So I started looking into it. I'm like, well, this is something I want to, because originally I always wanted to kind of get into doing more educational and stuff like that, because I've luckily in my career I've had some great experiences where I got to work with like a very, very famous photographer especially in New Jersey area, Nancy Ori. She used to be a student of Ansel Adams, and it's so cool to see pictures of like your mentors with like your heroes, right? Like really definitely crazy. One of the things that made me fall in love with my in-laws is the first time I went out to meet them in Santa Fe, New Mexico. My wife and them had gotten talking. They knew what I was into, and they took me to a surprise at the University of Santa Fe, and I got to meet Chris Rainier, who was Ansel Adams' last assistant, and studying at U of A, and really learning Ansel Adams' own theories and all that. Like that was huge to me. So I was like, man, this is the right guy. This is the one I'm marrying for sure. Like her parents are cool. They kind of knew enough about me and I was starstruck on him. And they're like, well, you can't talk. I was like, it's weird. I said, no, I felt weird, but like, it was kind of interesting in that. So taking all those experiences and kind of doing the educational thing, and always wanted to get in more into like the educational podcast or hosting other photographers just to talk about different things. I kind of came up with the idea of shooting my Star Wars collection. I wanted to find something that they always say you want to have something that's accessible, easy to do, something you're not going to get bored with, something you're passionate about. So I figured I'll combine my passion for photography and Star Wars with my collection of Star Wars Funko Pop. And it just kind of started from there. I think it was during COVID, we got a snowstorm in February. And, we're in a couple feet of snow. I pulled the pops out and started shooting them, with a reflector and stuff. And it just started with that. And it kind of picked up. And
cool.
I just kind of enjoyed doing it and kept going, and really start to find like a style. I think that's something to try to find too, is a style.
And that just happens naturally.
People, they'll see I use loom cubes is a big thing that I use in what I'm doing in these kind of shots. And so, I really enjoy using them. They're small, they're easy, they're portable. You can bring them everywhere, charge them up. Using one of them even tonight to light me. So
same.
Yeah, they're just great. They're just a great little handy tool. And they just, and combined with what I was trying to do with my goal of trying to shoot it on an iPhone. Again, just trying to make it simple, easy. Anyone can do this. And just have fun, and it's taken off. And like I said, I became friends with a lot of other content creators. My good friend Christopher Seriously Star Wars and I started the Star Wars Popcast because of our love of Star Wars Funko Pop. And he does a lot of reviews, I do photos, and it kind of started its own thing. And just have a lot of friends in the community. And again, I really enjoy following content creators like yourself and others that are really out there showing toy photography, putting it out there, and really kind of demystifying it. Because I think people get caught up in the equipment. I think you put an image up and everyone's like, well, what f-stop and what's this? Let's just talk. What kind of lighting ratio? When I worked at Nabisco, I worked at this great photographer named Bill Turin. And I walked in, and you got your head spinning, who knows what they're going to ask, what kind of lighting rate. And I'm thinking all these things in my head. And he looked at me and I'm like, are we doing a 3-to-1? He goes, Pat, I want you to take what you've learned, throw it out. I was like, and to know this photographer is to know how funny he is, but he was dead serious. He goes, I want you to take that. He's like, you're too analytical. I want you to throw that out and be creative. You see light. And by the time I got done working with him, it was when I was working with Nabisco, and Kraft bought Nabisco. Right. And had the auditors come around, and we were talking, and he gave me this line that I never forgot, and it was the best line I could ever give him. They're like, he goes, if they ever ask you what you do, I got a line for you. All right. So I came up, and they're talking, and they're like, so you're just an assistant? So no, I'm a second shooter, and this and that. And they're like, what do you do? I said, I manipulate mass consumers by manipulating light and focus. That's and they just were like, that's the best answer you could have given an auditor.
All right. So you mentioned a little bit earlier about style, and I want to just bring, Stubbs over here in the chat says, I'm still trying to figure out my style. And Stubbs, what I have to say about that is, you, my friend, you don't have to figure out your style. You just do whatever it is you think is cool, and that just will turn into your style based on what you think is cool and what you like and what you want to do. It's just going to slowly start turning into your style because you're consistently doing things that you like, and that's your style.
Stubbs,
right?
You feel it here, and you're like excited about an image. If you get excited, follow that. That's what you follow, and then your style will develop. This didn't just happen overnight. If you see the very early ones, they're very simple. I think I even entered one of your earlier contests over a year ago. It was like 2 years ago. I did the armor. It was the one where you had to have like something metal or something. I can't remember.
Oh, the metal one? Yeah, that was only a couple months ago.
You had to have a tool.
Oh, the
Sirdork
tool one. Yeah, that was a while ago.
And I just did something little. I literally took that in the pitch black of my basement on top of my hot water heater, lit that up, threw a hammer on a tile that I just grabbed, and I said, it's all going to be dark, and who knows, who cares? I'm going to just light it up because they're going to focus on her. And I just started with that, and that was just, I threw something together, kind of quickly. And I started kind of figuring it out, slowly figuring out. The screen kind of became an additive thing for me. But I also like shooting outside. I don't do it as often, but I
Cool.
do enjoy it. But
Me
for
too.
me, it's got to be the right light. It's got to be the right light.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So cool. I hope that answered your question. Well, actually, you didn't really answer a question. We just kind of jumped on you, Stubbs. Hope that helped. But we did get another question that I do want to make sure. This is another one from Lee. Lee, you're throwing out some great questions, so these are great. So, she asked, or he or she asked, do you do post processing?
I do process everything. So okay, I don't do what typically I'd have to do in commercial. I'm taking a raw image and bringing it in and tweaking it and then no. Again, shooting with the iPhone, I'm going right from the phone into my computer, into my laptop, and I bring it into Photoshop and do most of my editing there. So everything gets a little bit of love, even just for any little imperfections in the pop, stuff like that. Color grading, if that's what you want to call it. I'll play with the levels, use saturation, add a lightsaber effect, or like a laser, things like that.
Right.
Kind of have fun with it. And I try to keep it somewhat simple. The KISS theory: keep it simple, stupid. Right?
Yeah.
It just The thing is, I feel if I overcomplicate this, then I'm going back to work. Right.
Cool. I like that.
I want to do something I'm enjoying. Right. This is for fun. So I think that's the one thing I set out for myself is if it starts to become work, I wouldn't want to do it. So
I agree.
I just want to enjoy and have fun doing it.
Yeah, and sometimes when someone thinks about editing, like, oh, you edit your photos, it's like, well, yes. I mean, I've got to edit, but sometimes just a little bit goes a long way, like with these shots. And Siva, actually, speaking of light, yes, this is just one of the Lume cubes I use for all my photos. I just decided to stick it on the desk right here, and it's working kind of nice. But thanks, Siva. So Ben is throwing out a question. Action Photography says, what settings do you use on your phone? Or do you just use basically pull up the camera app and take a photo? Or
it's kind of funny because I've, again, trying to figure out what I'm doing. I've kind of got a recipe for myself I use, typically when I set up, I have my screen about 1.5 feet, 2 feet away. Then I have like my laptop stand. Take a piece of foam from, if anyone got the die-cast Funkos, that's the piece of foam that holds that whole acrylic. I just take that piece of foam, put that on top, and now I know my little iPhone kind of tripod that I have, that needs to be X amount of feet away, and I put it on the optical 3x zoom because I want to be in and kind of get that to help force my focus in the background to be slightly blurry, so it gives that depth. And also, if I put any little practical, if I take try to use like a prop or a crate or something like that. If I put something like that in there, whether it's in the foreground or background, it'll fall off. So yeah, trying to add more to it. I don't always get to do it, again, because the pops, I don't want to take away from that, and they're kind of a side, 4 foot, or 4 inches. So I'm trying to just shoot that and focus on that and make it look cool. So sometimes having all the other stuff, it's a distraction. And yeah. I've typically will shoot one. I rarely will do 2 at a time. Rarely, only because I find it's just a nice look, and clean. Just have the one and just go on.
I often will too. Yeah, it's one subject.
Like what the Obi-Wan that you just had up from the Kenobi series. Like what I did is I created my custom Vader to go first, and then I was like, well, you can't have a cool custom Vader with the battle damage and not have Obi-Wan, so that one is a pair. I'd done Ahsoka and Darth Maul with different colored of the similar backgrounds, red for Maul, blue for Ahsoka, so they went as a pair. And just recently, I haven't even posted yet. I still have to finish editing the videos, but I did BB9E and BB8. After I did BB9E, I was like, oh, that looks so cool. And I used a practical diorama and everything. And I was like,
whoa,
well, I can't do that and not have the good one. I got to put BB8 there now. So sometimes if I'm doing stuff like that, I'll kind of shoot them as like a set.
If it happens, it happens.
Yeah, it's like a series, but
Cool. That's awesome. All right. And you guys are throwing out some really great other questions too. Um, where was it? Where is it? Oh, from Star Wars Sith. So it says, "What's your favorite shot you've ever done with your Funkos? Which is your number one favorite image you've
Oh,
captured?"
that's a tough one.
Oh
That's a
yeah.
tough one. Okay. All right. So I
Maybe I
really
can find
did.
it.
I love my custom Vader only because Funko didn't make one, so I had to do that myself, right? So that
Really,
was
they
like,
didn't do that?
dude, that's me, dude. I made that myself.
Oh
So
yeah, I know that one. But I'm just thinking, like, wow, I can't believe Funko didn't jump on
haven't
that
yet.
opportunity. They haven't
Jared,
yet.
fingers crossed that we might get something for celebration. But it would
Mm.
be, I mean, that's one of my faves, but it's hard. I really like the Ray floating image a lot. I just love that pop.
That I think is my favorite of
that
yours.
that, that has
actually.
become one of my faves.
That's the one I used for the thumbnail today.
Yes, this one. This has become one of my faves. I just really liked how they did the clear acrylic to make it floating, and I was like, why can't they do this with more? And then I took my little 3D printed rocks, threw them in there. It was so much fun. I really enjoyed this shot. So this is definitely, but I think that new Ahsoka is up there. That new Ahsoka, the white, like it became another, and it's tough. I think every time I shoot one, there's another one. Like one of my, I think two other faves. I did one of Vader. It's like a vertical, but I kind of made it during the Kenobi where he's looking down on Kenobi. And it's just very blue and red. That one I really enjoyed a lot. Man,
there's a lot.
It's hard to say because you get one, you're like, oh, I really love that, and I say that when I try to put a book together. So I've been putting a coffee table book, and it's like, oh, but I only want to put 50 images. Okay, I want that one, but now I want this one.
I really wanted to just mention what I really like about this shot is you did a really great job of mimicking the lighting from the background on not only Ray but the rocks, floating rocks too. So it really makes everything feel cohesive together. Like so, this one major light source coming back, lighting these rocks and Ray. Just exactly the way it would if they were in that environment. So it's just super cohesive and
and in the BTS you'll see where basically I took nano misters and I took the covers of the nano misters, sat them there and put the rocks on top of that. So it literally is under the same exact lighting condition. And then I think I even added another light just to hit some light on the rock on the right side to get a little more because it was kind of just falling dull. It looked like a blob there. So I wanted to get a little on that right side. So I added another little light. And honest to God, the light I used were lights that I got two $5 a piece at Five Below. The little USB LED, they change colors. Every once in a while, I use that to add a little more atmosphere light where I can just tweak the color to a teal or something like that. So again, you don't always have to have really great expensive equipment to pull off shots.
Oh, yes.
And if anyone ever watched, there's an old photographer named Dean Collins. He was a very famous portrait photographer, and he's long gone. But he developed his own equipment and always started with one light source and would use bounce, like white cards, reflectors. And I'm talking the top CEOs, Colin Powell. Like when they needed a portrait, this was the guy they would do. And his lighting techniques, I probably apply to everything I do today. A lot of those techniques. Start out with one
really
light
cool.
and craft off of that. See if you can bounce, whatnot. Because what you can learn from that kind of portrait lighting, you can apply to anything.
Absolutely. I wanted to ask you about these. So these are these really cool Funko Pops that I've seen.
Oh, the retros.
Yes. Yeah, they're called retro, I guess, and it's got that really cool like comic book style paint on it.
Yes, this is a whole fun series. Yeah, I love these.
Yeah, you've done a bunch of them, and I just love how you've kind of also turned the background into that comic book style coloring. And,
so the secret to that, Jared, is I'll take an image and then bring it into a Mac app called Comic Life.
Oh, okay.
And I convert it into Comic Life, export that image, set that as the backdrop. And then I could either shoot with it. And what's neat is a lot of times I throw that backdrop roughly in the background to kind of get an idea before I even put the green screen up, just to get an idea what the composition
Oh,
would
okay.
be. And
That's
stuff like
smart.
that. And then I just throw the green screen up because I want to make it quick on those. I found it was a lot easier doing it for those, whereas a lot like this one here, the backdrop was
Savage.
shot in it. Yeah.
I'm actually just I'm in the middle of a Clone Wars rewatch, and I'm on season 4 at the moment. So
Nice.
just got
I think
through
the last
some
3
Savage
episodes are
stuff.
bangers. The Clone Wars, they're so good.
Oh yeah, that last season is crazy. But so
I have a
I'm
good friend,
fresh off the
Andrea,
Savage
who's
stuff.
got a channel, and we've been harping on her to finish Clone Wars. So, Jared, you gotta give us a plug to tell Andrea to watch it.
Oh yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
things
you
will all make
definitely-
sense more when she finishes it. And she's
And
a dear friend. We love her to death. We just need her to finish Clone Wars.
And as a huge Star Wars fan, there's definitely a few episodes that are a little bit of a bore. There's a lot of
There's
episodes.
some
Clone Wars
fillers.
that,
There's some fillers
that are
but
just
there's
like
a
you
lot.
just got to get through them. But there's a lot of really good ones too.
The earlier
this.
seasons, I think, aren't as great as they got later. The style got better. If you even notice the camera angles that they're doing with animation look like cinematic camera angles. So you can see how it got better and better.
Oh yeah, Okay, so tell me about this one because this is really cool. And I'm assuming is this Senate like platform thing a part of the Funko set, or is this
No,
something you added in?
so this one, when I had this pre-ordered and knew it was coming, I actually did I ordered it from a friend, Ian Butler, over in the UK, who does 3D printing, ICB Customs or something like that. I know I've got a link to it somewhere, but he had a bunch of files and examples on Instagram. So I messaged him and said, dude, I'd love to get a repulsor. And he said, well, I said, I want to scale it just so that I could put the pop in it. And he said, okay, I could do that. So I got that. I got the spires and stuff for which I honestly thought I was going to use all that when I did the Vader, because I got the spires from that planet they fought on. Thought I was going to use them, and it just was too much. It was too much. So sometimes I always say, sometimes a little is a lot, right? Because especially when you're shooting something like this, small.
Less is more.
I needed to have that because that, to me, that was the image I had in my head, was the repulsor and then the Senate background.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I really like that shot, and it's very different. Typically in toy photography, at least with the stuff I will typically do, there's usually a lot of like big action stuff, and you don't typically think about, okay, here's Senator Amidala in the Senate on Coruscant, and that's not my mind wouldn't go there.
Yeah, well, you know what? Awesome. Again, trying to capture the scenes, like like this, for instance, right? I had to capture that. It had to be the two of them, right?
I love.
Couldn't just have one by themselves. And I knew I did like the Power of the Galaxy version of Leia, where they're near the detention hall, And I remember going back to watch A New Hope to see, was she on the left or right side of the screen? Yeah, there she is. And she's on the right, so I had to place her on the right. So I try to get some things a little more accurate. I try to do research on like what I think the background should be. Like I know I did like the Arc Umbra Trooper, and for that one, we've never seen it live action, and so I was like, okay. So I did a little research knowing it was on a bioluminescent plant. So then I started cherry picking stuff from my kids, fish tank. Let's put that. Got a very bioluminescent background.
Yeah.
And I combined all that, and that became the image, So
awesome.
Just
is that shot on here? Right? Is that on your Instagram?
Yeah.
I have to find that one with the Umbara Trooper.
Yeah, you'll see him. He's black,
Trooper.
yellow, and there's a lot of fluorescent.
And that's actually literally the arc that I'm in the middle of at the moment. Here he is.
Arc Umbra. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, fantastic.
But again, it's always fun to do just a little bit more so that what kind of background or whatnot, or to tell a story, because I think that's one thing that whether you're a toy photographer, still life photographer, a portrait photographer, any kind, you're telling a story. And in toy photography, we get to tell some really amazing stories. Maybe scenes that never happened in a movie or a film or an animation, or maybe something we just had in our head. And that's the great thing, is you're bringing those memories that you might have harkened back to the older guys that had been collecting these for years. you're kind of reinvigorated by reliving that childhood memory by creating a really stellar image with these things. It's
Yep.
so much fun.
Yeah, it really is. It's not only a creative outlet, but it's a way to express yourself and be some, especially if these are things that remind you of your childhood, and it's just there's so many wonderful things about
And
this.
And Jared, you do a great example with a lot of times with being able to take like household things like your Eggos, your Heinz ketchup, your love for Mountain Dew. Why aren't you do the Dew commercials? They should all be yours at this point.
Yeah,
But
that'd be
you do
cool.
a great job of again taking practical things around the house. Like when you did that shot, there's a shot you did of Homelander with the ice pop in the summer. It
Right.
was so simple. It was a great hot day that what I saw is like, yeah, I can see the ice cream truck coming up. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to order 2, one for me to eat and one for to shoot. And I just
Yep.
thought, I was like,
It
that's
melted
really
quick.
cool what you have on hand, and that was really fun.
Thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, and that's actually almost feel like that sometimes is an easy way out, like just grabbing random objects. But I think that's just a lot of fun.
We
doing
used
that.
to get challenges in school and in the photo forums that I always enjoyed, where it was like a theme, and if you had a theme, you had to shoot it. And we had someone grab stuff around the house and shoot macro, and it was the most amazing work I've
Cool.
ever seen. And
That's
we're
really
looking
fun.
at like parts of a colander, you know what I mean? Like, but to everybody, it was, I don't know what that is, but the light coming through, it was just awesome.
That
It
sounds
was a
really fun.
colander. It was those are, so give yourself challenges like that. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
You
I
take them
I
off their
also
base. This is a very good question, Linda. Do I take them off the base or keep them on? So I have a few that come off the base because they're older ones. Most of them are on the base, and I've attempted to take one off with hot water, successful with one. Another one, I was like, before I didn't want to break it, so I left it. So that's why a lot of times you never see their feet, because I leave the base
right.
on. I don't want, I'm collecting them. I don't want to break them just for the image.
The fact that you can still do everything you do without taking them off the base, I think makes it that much cooler.
Then it becomes crafty. What kind of angle am I going? High, low? Who's the character? You know what I mean?
That's awesome. All right. Well, and thank you, Siva. Maybe one day. So
I agree.
I got a bunch of questions for you from Instagram. So basically what I'll do anytime I have any one of these interviews, I'll throw into the my Instagram story, just ask a question. And if you ask a question, I'll pull it up, give you a shout out, and we'll answer your question on the stream. But first, if you haven't already, please make sure you're following Patrick here, Toy Photog Effer. And I have his information, everything linked right in the description of the video. So his YouTube channel and his Instagram. Actually, his YouTube channel is tagged in the title, because YouTube can do that now. So that's really cool. So make sure you're doing that. Right now he's at 332 followers. Let's refresh it and see if that has 338. So he's gone up. Keep pumping that up. Come on.
Nice,
If you're not following him already, please make sure you're doing that. Hang on. I think we have an in-house question. Is this going to be appropriate?
Yeah. Oh, there's your camera. Why is your name so aggressive?
No, it's toy photographer. Toy photographer.
Oh,
Like a license
I just
plate.
said
you
it.
said it in a very aggressive way.
Yes, I just said it in an.
That was his bad.
Yes, that was my bad. Okay, so here we go. Let me pull up some questions here, and I'm still getting used to using StreamYard as my thing. So getting the questions up here is a little different than I usually do. So here we go. Hey, so this is from Logically, and just wants to know how you're doing. How are you?
Doing
How are you
good.
doing? Just good. No, I mean, it's a Tuesday. I mean,
Yeah, doing good. Having a great day. Having a great time. Being invited on the stream today for the interview. That's kind of fun and exciting.
thank you. Man.
Got some good images coming up. I think I've got like 5 images in the queue that I'm editing and stuff that they're already shot, edited, just finishing the video clips.
All right, I know that struggle. Trust me.
Hey, that's my
so-
buddy Christopher.
Yeah,
Nice.
thanks, Christopher. And Toy Stories is just throwing out a quick question because he's curious, and so I know we've been on.
I shoot with my phone my Funko Pops. I honestly think I shot one, and I don't even include it. I think it was one of my very first videos I shot with my camera. I shot like a chrome Mandalorian with a dark saber and a Wampa, and I think I had my giant Razor Crest. I ran out, put that in the background in the snow, was all excited. But I just found, I just wanted to do something simpler. But yeah, eventually I think just for fun, I might bring out some of the other cameras in the future to just kind of maybe give people a more education. Like, what is a Hasselblad? Why did I shoot with a Canon? I love Canon. I had an AE1 when I was first in college. And I always laughed. I was hoping it was one of my favorite photographers that went and taught at the school. Years long, he's long gone, but I thought maybe it might have been one of Eugene Smith's, because a very cool legend, if you're in Arizona and you go to U of A, you will hear that he often sold his equipment around town at pawn shops, so you might actually pick up a piece of his equipment. Now, the fact that he is on archive at the CCP, the Creative Center for Photography at U of A, I doubt it. But one of the coolest things is being able to go into the archive and see his locker. So there's a great story why there's this huge dent in his. There's a row of lockers from Life magazine, and there's a huge dent in one, and it's his. And he got so upset because he had been fired and rehired 5 times from Life magazine during his career. And he took a Sharpie and wrote, "The greatest gift God gave to man is be able to blank his enemies." And he punched it and he quit that day for the last time. And they kept that locker in the archive at the Center of Creative Photography at Arizona. So I thought that was really cool, really fun. So yeah, I'm doing good.
So next one is from Villain Origin. It says, how do you find the perfect places to put a lume light or lume cube or any type of light?
Again, I try to throw out the idea, all those things I've learned, right? Lighting ratios, all that. All I'm looking for is what I'm trying to do is light the subject. So a lot of times how I will position light is based on a few things. One, obviously the background. So what does the background look like? What's the lighting situation in the background? Am I gonna be able to mimic that so I can blend it and it seems real? So a lot of times the background is the start of how I'm choosing it. So I have a vision in my head. Okay, I want to shoot Sauvage and I want something like Mustafar. So I need to find lava and stuff. So I'll look for images in Adobe Stock or whatnot, something close I can find. And I'll use that. Others are like I've been recently using some 3D models. So I'll take the 3D modeling, move that around. I have the lights for the most part set up. I start to kind of have an idea of how I want it. And I've been using quite frequently. I'll go anywhere between 3 and 5 lights, little lume cubes. And what I'll do is I'll position one to be its main. Then I'll usually have a light on the top. A lot of times I have helmets and hair. And what's nice is when you top light it or hair light it, you're getting those details in the sculpts of the hair. And they're very nice with the reflectiveness of that surface. So that's why I really like the vinyl. When they're flocked, you kind of lose a lot of it. Like when I did the chrysanthemum, I was so excited to get it and photograph it. But I was like, oh, it doesn't have the pop. And when that new chrysanthemum came out, I was like, yes.
Cool.
I knew it was going to just rock with the highlights and stuff. So, and then I'll start to work my way around it and carve it out. So typically I know I'm going to have a light off, whether it's Rembrandt, which is kind of off the side 45ing, so you get a triangle at the, if it's a portrait, but I'll try to light it like that as the main, or maybe I'll put it on a boom as the main. But I typically will start with that hair light, and then I'll use 1 or 2 rim lights and maybe another little fill, which I'll put on a snoop or something like that. That's typically what I do.
Right, and you can kind of see if you go and pull up any one of his behind the scenes, you'll see everything you just explained is right there. He'll basically try to start mimicking what he sees in the background to try and make it match there, and just comes out like that.
Yeah, and sometimes a little bit of that, like post-production, right? So I shot an image in a nice hot summer, or not summer, but fall day, in October. in Florida, and it had that Batu look, right? It was very warm.
Right.
Wanted to kind of make it look kind of like, we're in Mos Espa or whatnot.
Yeah, which it
So
does.
use that. And the only thing I really added was a warm, when I went into Photoshop, I think the really only thing I added to this one was I did the photo filter, the warming gel. That was it. Just like a regular photo gel that you would put on a camera. It's the only thing I added at post-production.
Cool.
And I might have tweaked it a little bit so it wasn't so warm. I might have played with the opacity or the strength of it, and that was it.
Awesome. So Stubbs is throwing out a quick question too about the backgrounds. So
yes, I do use real backdrops and practicals and stuff. A lot of times I have fun because I can quickly and very easily change where I could be in the I could be here in Mos Espa, or I could be on the destruction of the Death Star. I could be at a sunset, like instantly. So that's one thing I love this. Having the new 3D modeling I was playing with, I feel like I'm really, because I usually joke calling it the virtual volume. But I really felt like I was in the volume with the 3D modeling because I literally was able to move everything exact. And I left the pop there, and it was like, this is like a still life photographer's dream, like to light it, leave it, and just move that around to, I need that right here. It was like on point. I love that. So
yeah,
that was neat. But I do shoot practical. So I actually recently got,
here we go,
images using something like this as a practical. So
that's
dioramas
awesome.
like this. They light up and things like that.
That's really cool.
So I actually used these just recently for BB9E and BB8. But one of the ones I used this when you're asking, I think Star Wars Sith asked earlier, one of my old favorite photos, because again, you always, I love this one now, I love this one, is I did the concept, the Macquarie concept series Vader, and I did it with this practical, and I just loved it. And the reason I loved it even more, I left it on the window ledge behind me, sitting on here, just as a decoration. And the light coming through the window, diffused, was so beautiful. I literally set up the tripod and shot it then and there. And that there was no light, there's no lighting added. That was just natural light.
Sweet. That's fantastic.
Yep.
All right, cool. So I'm going to move back over to some of the questions from Instagram. So where do I have these here? Hang on a sec. What the heck? Hang on. Oh, I know why. Here we go. All right. Sorry. It's this whole StreamYard stuff, getting used to it. Wait, what the heck? Where is it? All right. Well, let's just do this. So, thank you, Villain Origins, for sending that one in. So the next question is from John Leonard 1. It says, who's your favorite hero or non-photography hero? So I guess real life person. Who's your hero / photography hero? Whatever.
That's
comes
a
to
good
mind.
one. So real's a tough one because is it the real mentor? Like someone you actually studied under, someone that you just like watched, loved their work. It's a tough one. I'll say this. An easy way to answer that first part of that is favorite photography hero, Chip Fraley, one of the photographers I worked for. Many people will know him if you had a Mac computer with the black and white photo with that pier kind of going out, and it's kind of like long exposure. It's actually a 16-minute exposure with 3 neutral density on that, shot on a 4x5. So being able to go with him, shoot images like that, see him blow up in the world in gallery and being collected, being a great family man, and he passed away last year. To me, one of the best photographers that I've ever got to meet, was a class act, was a mentor. I was mentioning to Jarrett before we got on, he was like an Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I was a young Luke. He was very impressionable. He was able to steer me the right way, teach me the right way, and always taught me to pass on what I've learned. That you need to be an instructor and also a keeper of photography. Great to learn it and keep it and don't lose that information so you can pass it on. because really the imagination and the creative eye is up to the individual. You're just teaching them how to use the tools so they can go ahead and go forth and be creative. And so that he's probably one of my biggest heroes,
Cool.
graphic.
Great great advice. That's
But
awesome.
if I guess I had a mixture of a lot of photographers that inspired me back in my day. I would say like Eugene Smith, Richard Avedon, Diane Arbus, like a lot of those classics, right? Then it got to Sante D'Orazio, fashion photographer, Anne Leibovitz, things like that. Then it got into, still life photography and things like that. So there's a lot of photographers like photographer Bill Turin and Amy Sharrock and Sam Colello. There's so many other photographers I worked with in those different areas. You'll never know. They're like the Fall Guy. You'll never know any of their names, but you've seen all their images. So
right.
It's not always about the hero, because I'll be honest, I won't divulge. I did get to meet who I thought was my hero. And if you ever get to meet your hero and it falls flat of that was the worst experience I ever had. It was meeting the favorite photographer, an idol, someone that I knew, that a colleague of I kind of connected us. And I got to go assist, and I thought it was going to be the greatest thing, and it wasn't. It was sad, and it was a big disappointment, because I put this person on like such a pedestal. So when I got to meet him, I was crushed.
Oh, man, that's too bad.
Because you know what it was? There was something he said intimately to his wife that was shared, and I thought, to me, and Jared and any of you guys, you're going to be married one day, and I want you to be able to do this. When you wake up one day and you can roll over to your wife and say you're living your dream because you're doing photography, and you've left something else that you've been doing as a job or career, and you went and you full boat, and that person has the full heart and support, and you went and do it. To me, that was like, wow, I'd love to have that one day. And so just from that, I was like, wow, this guy's really cool. But then working, totally different experience. So it was kind of crushing. Non-photography hero, George Lucas.
All right.
Right. He, watching that first film is what got me hooked. So seeing a go across the screen and this big ship slowly engulf the screen.
I can only imagine.
I was in kindergarten. I was like 5 years old.
Oh, man.
Instantly, I learned perspective and creative imagery with that. I was like, wow, that was impressive. Camera work like that was impressive. And that hook, line, and sinker. So non-photography, George Lucas.
Awesome. Well, that's definitely a great answer. That's for sure. Cool. So John Leonard, thanks for sending that one in. Next is from Zip Thwip Boom. If you could only keep one Funko Pop from your whole collection, which would it be and why?
Ooh, that's a tough one, Zach. That's a tough one. Wow, because there's so many good ones. Darn. If I had to keep one. Oh, that's brutally hard. All right. I don't even know how to answer that one.
You know what? When I get answered, or when I get asked a question that's this hard, I usually will take the easy way out and be like, well, I would take this one and this one and this one. And this one.
Okay. All right. All right. If it was like a big pop, right? So the largest pop you can get, I think they're coming out with a new Mando. That would be cool. But I have the Boba Fett, and that's hard to put somewhere. That's a big one. I still have it in its box. I got it at Black Friday. I still haven't figured out where I'm going to place that. And I'm moving. This is all going to be downstairs. What used to be the kids' playroom is now being that's new YouTube studio area. So that's going to be fun to convert that. But I would say, all right, I love my talking lights and sound talking Darth Vader. Love that. I think that's really cool.
That's awesome.
Love that one. Ahsoka, yeah, Chris knows Ahsoka the White. That's a good brand new pop. It's hard to say. That would be a single. If it needed to be like one of the vehicle, I love the new one, the Mandalorian with Grogu on the speeder bike. Love it. So I think those are my top. You can't just choose one. I can't choose one.
That's all right. You don't.
That's a tough one, but it's such a good question. That's a very good one. It had to be one. I really love Ahsoka the White. but I do
Yeah.
also love the Darth Vader lights and sound. It's tough. All right, that's a tough one.
That's all right. Yeah, when it's that
It's a
tough,
solid question.
just
I love
remember
that.
you don't have to. You can take the easy way out, and that's all right. All right. Thank you, Zap Thwip Boom. That's a great question. So next is from Steve Harrington 287. What's the best thing about photography?
I think the best thing. It's a creative outlet. It's a creative outlet. You know, right now I've been working for the last couple of years in IT, close to 9-10 years now, and I like having a creative outlet. So even when I was doing it full time in the studio, it's great, but it's work. And there's nothing better than coming into the studio because you love your work. I love it, but then I think you need to have something else that you photograph or a different style that you photograph so that you have something that's yours.
Yeah,
Does that make sense? Like
definitely.
it's something that gives you, it's not you're doing it for others, you're doing it because it gives you pleasure.
Exactly.
Right? And no matter what, like when I started my channel in my kind of thing that I'm doing now, I did it because I wanted a creative outlet. I needed to flex the photography and have fun and do something just neat, something new. And for me, it was a creative outlet, and it's something I really truly enjoy. And if you asked me a year ago when I was even thinking about doing this, what do you think is going to happen of it? If I had 5 subscribers, I was happy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's great.
Because again, I didn't care about that. I wasn't trying to get monetized or trying to do any. I just wanted to put images up there, and if people liked them, that's cool. And then people started liking them, and people started talking about them, and it started becoming its own thing. And so, I think that's also what's great about photography. You could do it for a living. And there's times where I go and I would have to do a shoot. Am I always happy when I'm shooting, or am I enjoying that? No.
Yeah.
I'm filling a prescription, right? I've been told by an art director, this is what I want. Okay, we could do it. This is how, you know what? You have a vision. My job is to take what you're envisioning and actually make it happen. So great. I'll listen to that. Now, one thing I like, having gone from film where you're shooting slide film and going to digital, is you have more flexibility now as a photographer with digital, because you can get those extra frames where you wouldn't have done that before. You wouldn't go out and spend the money on film if it wasn't getting used, right? Because it's costing you money. The client's not going to pay for it, but you know what I mean? You're taking out of your pocket, even the clip test, to see did the exposure right for that whole roll you just exposed for. Or the 4x5, you know what I mean? Depending on what you're shooting. So having digital at your fingertips now, what I've always enjoyed is, like, especially when I get that creative director or art director, it's like, great, shoot, we'll shoot it your way. But again, there's times where you need to put yourself out there, because they didn't hire you to be a mercenary to fill a prescription at times. And you need to know your client. You need to know when you need to step up at that point, because you're only as good as your last image. One thing in photography, you're only as good as your last image. So you're always out there getting better. You're always out there improving. And it's a personal thing, right? We don't go and spend all this money on equipment to get a crappy photo, right? We want to ensure that we're going to get a good image. We take workshops, we watch YouTube, we might read some books and educational things. And you're doing it to better yourself. And I think that's one thing about photography. You meet any photographer, there's something innately about them that they're a creative person. Their mind's always going, they're coming up with ideas. You're the person typically in the room that, if they're pitching an ad, you'd have 10 ideas in about 10 minutes, and you didn't even have to work and break a sweat to do it. Photographers are those guys. We're problem solvers too, right? How many times is someone asking to get an image? Can you create this? And you're taking notes and you're thinking about it. Yeah, okay, I could do this and you could do that. Like, I've actually, early on in my career, I got to sit in boardrooms to talk about shooting a package for Oreo, right? Like, think about this.
That is cool.
You're in a boardroom, 12 people with some damn good salaries talking about what they want for a package, and they're very specific. They know exactly what they want. And then you get to the day of the shoot, and you've got a table full of the art directors, executives with little brushes brushing out to make sure that Oreo doesn't have a crumb in any of that crevice of the magic they have just unlocked. As they unlock it, you have this woman, Alyssa, do it piping back into magic, right? Piping into fillings, that Oreo looks even better. Then when we get that, we're gonna shellac it because that's the hero, and it gets put in a Tupperware, and it's good for a year or two, you know. And it's amazing to see the work that goes behind the scenes for something simple as an Oreo.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And I think that's one thing that photography can do if you keep working at it. If you're passionate about it, you can make a living doing it. And you could do weddings, you could do portrait photography, you could do product photography, food photography, editorial photography, news photography. There's so much.
So Steve
do it all and figure out what you like.
Yeah, and thank you so much for this question, Steve. That's a really good question.
Very good.
So this is from Ben himself. It says, when you first started with action figures, how long did it take when you're first, starting with action figures?
So my first time shooting action figures was actually on the job, so it wasn't supposed to take me long. I had to figure it out quickly, but at where I was working at the time at Hasbro, I got to shoot a lot of G.I. Joe. There was one of the new G.I. Joe movies had come out. I think it was the second movie.
Okay, right.
The one that opened up with Firefly. The scene with the fireflies in the beginning. I think it was the second movie, maybe. But so I had to shoot a lot of stuff with that. I just remember seeing the Channing Tatum G.I. Joe figure on my desk on a tray for days. It haunted me. It haunted me. I saw Jimmy Fallon. I didn't get to shoot that one, but I saw Jimmy Fallon Obi-Wan prequel style figure that was made one of one for him for the Tonight Show.
That's awesome.
Come through. But I think the first figure I had to shoot was a Cobra officer with the ski mask.
Okay.
And I grabbed some little motorcycle, posed him on a motorcycle, and the idea was to shoot a multi-image capture and move the light around so that you can get like the highlight here and the highlight here and the highlight here, and all the little details and little areas, and combine them into one image. So that was the trick.
Sweet.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Like, I do remember shooting a Clone Wars version of Yoda, and I purposely left the sleeve where you could see where the lightsaber or something would shoot out. It had some kind of contraption here, something would shoot out. So I left that there because it looks like an animation more than it does a photograph. But that's how we were able to tweak it at the time. And again, different brands have different styles. So it was kind of neat to be able to learn that. So the first action figure I had to shoot was a G.I. Joe. And it took me a little bit to learn that technique. So I remember shooting a G.I. Joe, a Spider-Man with a vehicle that shot like webs or something out of it. I had this giant kind of He-Man, thicker style Wolverine that I had to shoot. And that was just trying to learn the new style. So I think playing with those for a while, like a week or so, playing with that, I had plenty of time shooting that. And then it came to, okay, I need these G.I. Joe shot, these Star Wars, this, that, Cookie Monster for Sesame Street. So it very quickly had to shoot a lot of different figures.
Awesome. All right. Well, Ben, thanks for sending that question in. That's really cool. Some real old school stuff in there. So next is from Star Wars Sith, who's been in the chat for a while now. It says,
he is
Jar Jar Binks is your favorite prequel character.
Yes, because I admit it on camera on the Star Wars Popcast today that Jar Jar was not one of my favorites. I was probably one of those OG fans that really hated on him, and I didn't really hate on him. What I respect is Ahmed Best did a great job in a motion capture suit. It was something revolutionary. Give him all the props for that. And as I said on the podcast, I understand why you put Jar Jar there, because Star Wars is innately made for kids, and we all grew up with it, so we all love where it is in our style of what we're enjoying with Star Wars films. But he put those characters for kids. I didn't quite get. I was older. I didn't really care for him, but I knew what he was there for. Just like when I was a kid and I wanted to see Wookiees and not Ewoks, but I also understood why, probably as I grew older, is because he became a father. He adopted his kids, and he kind of put that in that same time frame. is where his mindset was, right? So he added that for that comedic and childlike.
Yep.
It was perfect.
Yeah, and I
Jar Jar
was 7 years
this
old.
exact thing. I just didn't really care for him, and I didn't mind the Ewoks. Love the Ewoks. I just wanted Wookiees. You know what I mean? I had to wait for the prequels to get Kashyyyk and tons of Wookiees. Like I wanted that in Return of the Jedi. But you know, every generation has their Star Wars, right? And I was the OG. I didn't hate the prequels. I actually loved them. I think I wept when Order 66 happened.
That's great. I'm glad to hear it. And it's just great to see that the prequels now there's so much love around them, which is awesome. And yeah,
exactly.
I was 7 when I saw Phantom Menace, and I loved Jar Jar from the second, and I still do. So
see, I thought he had a community. I loved when he got his tongue caught by Qui-Gon, right at the dinner
Don't
table.
do that again.
Yeah, love that. I loved him getting into trouble with Sebulba. I loved they did the new pop for where his tongue gets hit by the electric repulsors in the pod racer. You know, I love those are great. You know, but Jar Jar is also responsible for the fall of the rise.
Yeah, I mean,
all the Republic.
He is, but I think he was manipulated and
absolutely
taken advantage of. But anyway, Star Wars Sith. Thank you for being
Thank
here.
You for busting my chops.
Yeah, and thanks for the great question. All right, next is from Comic Dad, who's also here in the chat too. And we did kind of mention this. When did you start toy photography?
So I started my toy photography. What you guys see as toy photographer, I started that literally about a year ago. Just kind of shooting and kind of going on from that. I've been shooting since I'd say I've been shooting in New York and commercially since like 97, 98. Studied that photography. So I've been shooting for a while, shooting everything. Time. And again, like I said, there was a time when I worked at Nabisco and I'd work on weddings and stuff like that on the weekends, worked at portrait studios. And then because the digital came out, it became like a freelancer to offer my services to convert studios from shooting film, going what we call analog, to shoot digital and kind of give them workflows and teach them how to do that. And I started doing that on my own. So yeah, I've been in photography for quite some time.
Awesome. And
thank you very much, Dad.
Yeah, he's got more.
Oh, what's your favorite toy?
Which we might have covered also, and he also mentioned that in the chat too. But what's your favorite toy to shoot? So obviously it's Funko, and so I know
Funko. But you know what? I did buy 2 figures, pre-ordered them. They're exclusive. I had the Ahsoka and Darth Maul from the recent Clone Wars vintage.
Ooh, nice.
Right, totally in their box. I was gonna pose them. I was going to put it. What I was going to do is going to recreate the scene of the 2 of them on the scaffolding with the gunner ship above them, lights down. I was going to do something like that. And quite honestly, it was a Toy for Tots collection, and I saw what my Masonic Lodge was doing. So I actually, instead of taking them, keeping it for myself and photograph them, I wanted to surprise some kid for Toys for Tots to get 2 Star Wars figures that weren't even accessible yet, unless you had them pre-ordered, and they weren't going to hit shelves for months. So I wanted to surprise some young person.
That's really awesome.
I gave them the Toy for Tots.
That's so cool. Well, that's really awesome for doing that. So there you go, Comic Dad. Thanks for sending in both questions.
Thank you. Good question.
Next is from Foggy. It says, how do you find work and art balance? It's a good one.
That is a very good one. I find it, well, it depends. Where's that niche? So sometimes for me, it's when my kids go to bed and my wife is already tuckered out because she worked a double, and I have the rest of the house to myself at night. And so that's quite honestly a great time for me because I'm relaxing. I'm done my work. I'm done my day. And I can just kind of hang around, get creative, think of something. And I'll think about an image days out, and there's some right. And I'm like any photographer. There's times I go and I have this whole idea in my head, and I take pictures. And then you realize, yeah, that didn't work out, right?
Yeah.
So I do a lot for that. I do a lot for fails, but I try not to have too many of those. I try to always think about how I'm going ahead, what I'm planning for. But my work-life balance is, I guess, or creative balance or art balance would be. Do something when I'm doing my Star Wars pops. I do it for me, and I'm so happy I have a community that enjoys Star Wars, enjoys Funko Pops, enjoys what I'm doing. I am so blessed and happy for that. But I do it for me, and the fact that I do it for me, it's not because I'm getting sponsored by anybody. Funko, Reese O'Brien, and those guys over there haven't called and said, "Hey, dude, we want you shooting them." Love to do that. But I do it because I just love it, and I think they do such a great job with the Funkos that I wanted to do something cool with them.
They really do.
So it was just something I wanted to have fun. And I did it because I needed a creative outlet, because when you're sitting there crunching on a computer all day and worrying about someone's batch update and did the files go to the bank, or how do I create this transaction type? Yeah, that, when work day's over, close that door, open up the creative door. And I think everybody needs to have that.
Yes. Yeah, do it for you. Do it for you. And you won't even have to find the balance. It just kind of happens.
Yeah, you have something for yourself. You have to have something for yourself to do. Cool. I used to always get asked, is photography a hobby? Well, it's funny you say that. I love photography. It's my passion. I do it for a living, but do I do it for a hobby? No. And now it's funny because I found my niche I have it as a hobby now. You know what I mean? It is something I can do that I have fun. That's mine. It's not work related, which is nice.
Awesome. Thank you, Foggy, for sending that shot in it. And this is from Brennan Mister. Says, what toy line are you excited for in 2023?
All right. So as I always say, I'm huge into Funko. That's kind of my niche. So I really like that. But that said, Greg Cook has done those. Are they the Beast? They're like they kind of look like a Funko on steroids, but they're like Beast Mode or Beast something. I think they're made by Sideshow or Hot Toys, but they're like he had like a Django Fett recently on one of his videos, and it's a Beast line or something. Put it this way, I don't know what line of toy that is.
Beast Kingdom?
That's it. That is it.
Okay, so it's like it's a chibi but articulated type of
yes, it's as a Funko Pop became a Black Series.
Yeah, so it's
I saw that and I'm like, all right, I might have to sink some money into one or two of those puppies, because that would
great.
Be awesome.
Yeah,
because like I was saying earlier, I hate Yorgie's Beast Kingdom. Because I hate not being able to pose my Funkos. So I'm stuck with what I have, and I'm very envious of all you figure shooters and figure collectors, because you get to put them in such cool poses.
Yeah, the egg attack by Beast Kingdom. Yeah, those would be perfect. It really is it's like kind of like a Funko Pop, but it's the articulation.
To answer you, Brendan and Mister, that's the one toy I'm very excited to get in 2023.
Yeah, there's a lot of great Star Wars ones. A lot of great Star Wars ones.
Egg Attack,
Darth Maul, and the Mando and Grogu, and they're great. They're really cute.
Yeah, didn't you do a series of the egg ones, Jared?
I did.
You had like clone troopers or something moving down train tracks or something. I thought.
No, I don't have any of the clone ones, but I think I know who you might be talking about. Who did those? Maybe I don't know, but yeah, they're awesome figures, and yeah, you would love that, because then it's kind of a nice mix between what you already do and kind of getting into it.
And again, if you collect anything, like the collection's getting large, right? And like, what am I going to do with it? So the collection gets huge. And so I don't want to go too crazy and get collecting anything. Like that's one reason, like I don't go in the Sideshow and stuff like that, because again, young kids don't want it. You're not going to spend the money to get it broken, right? And when they're they're getting older now, where I know I could trust them on it, but then they're in high school, and then their friends are coming over. So as we get in the college years, which is only 6 more years from now, my youngest will be entering college, right? So when we get to that point, if I want to sell some of my Funkos and maybe do some sideshows, that could be worth it.
There you go.
They're gorgeous. Those sideshow collectibles, they're nice.
All right, Brennan, Mister. And so next one's from Darth Indominus 66. What's your favorite and your least favorite photo you took? So I know we talked about your favorite. So what about your least favorite?
All right. So my least favorite is one I did of my Purge Trooper.
Oh.
I was disappointed with that one, and that's up there. I shot it, and at the time I thought it looked great, and I was so excited. I was like, oh, this is cool. And it just, like, literally then the very next after posting it and everything, the very next day, I was kind of like, I didn't really like that. Was there anything technically wrong with it? No, I lit it. I used a backdrop that, again, I shot at Galaxy's Edge, so it's 100% everything me. Lit it, used the nano misters, everything. I thought it executed well. I just wasn't happy with the end result, and that happens, I guess. Yeah, that
That's the one. I think this is great.
See, to me, that's one of my worst. I didn't like it. I don't know.
Smoke.
And I think if I was to do it better, what I would have done is, in hindsight, I would have probably blasted a white light against something else to bounce more light in the front as opposed to directly lighting. Right? That's, again, Monday quarterback on it. But that was just an image that that's the one I probably like the least. And there's a couple earlier ones. I did an early one. If you scroll all the way to the very beginning, like the armor wasn't that well done. Again, playing with the new loom cubes and equipment and just figuring things out. Like, let's see these. What can I do? Let's just go down in the dark so there's no light contamination, and just playing. And again, just kind of figuring out what I want to do. At one point, I was actually shooting in the basement in all dark. Some of the very earlier ones, why you have no backdrop at all, I shot them in complete darkness, so the only light. Like, I was literally with the tripods I used. They're these very flexible little tripods.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I can bend the legs. So I was literally in the basement hanging these upside down off of pipes, maneuvering the snoots and heads to hit certain areas. And I had like a recipe. If I put the pop on, 2 storage bins and my computer stand right here, I could hang this here and this here, and I could just hit them on with the phone and start playing. So that's how I first started playing with them, when I was playing with the loom cubes and the pops. That was my first thing. And then it started from there. But that image to me was one of my weak ones, and you get that every once in a while. You put an image like
just experimenting.
I did it. I guess my other one, what bothered me is I did I did one that I usually don't do. I did 2 figures. I did Kanan and Ezra Bridger in a practical, not a digital background, using those little dioramas I had. I set that up. And what bothered the heck out of me was I had tried to shoot those 2 figures somewhere together outside, and what I envisioned looked great, and when you capture it, didn't look great. But I saw like this light coming through the chairs of my deck that were on the table, so they're upside down, but the shafts of light coming through towards the end of the day, and I'm like, oh, this is perfect. I must have went out there twice one day, and I wasn't happy. I was like, and I just wasn't feeling it. Went out there the same time the next day, same lighting conditions. Like, all right, this time we're gonna nail it. And I went out there, different tripod, ball head, and had it moving around. Still, and I wasn't happy. And literally, the images then didn't even go forward. I think as close as I did added a lightsaber effect. Just to quickly play with a quick adjustment, put the lightsaber effect in, and it didn't make the cut. It just, wasn't feeling it. And then eventually I did that other shot, and I liked it. Again, I think it was one of those days where just the lighting was coming through the window, and very minimum addition to have. I think I added one other loom cube in there just to add as a fill, and I just shot that, and I like that. But it depends. It's what you see. When you see the light, you kind of know it.
It does. And sometimes it takes one try of doing it and not liking it to figure out what you need to do to like it, and doing a second try. That definitely it happens to me a lot.
Like I tried to do famously, I tried to do one of your kind of takes on lighting fireworks, dude. I was so pissed that I put all these fireworks through my and again I was worried, like, I don't want the pop to get ruined, right? It wasn't like a figure that it's just this is expendable. No, I wanted to keep that. I didn't want to ruin it, so I had the fireworks in the very corner of these stairs, and I moved this pop, and I must have taken with the phone and with an SLR tons of frames. I'm like, and with the SLR, I think I'm gonna nail it. I was like, you got to be kidding me! Like, this didn't go off where I thought it was. Like, some of the ones I wanted looked great, but they blew up almost off camera screen. I'm like, damn it to hell. Like, because I couldn't control where they were going to jump to.
Right.
And that was the killer. I was like, oh my gosh.
It's probably fun though, right?
Yeah. I had it in the shadow. I had all the makings. So I got so pissed that I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just do it digitally. So I went and it was my Sabine Wren where she's got both glasses.
Oh, okay.
I ended up doing that all digital because
Hey.
the
Great.
fireworks did not work right. I was so pissed. My son was out there; he was all excited because he got to help like fireworks with me. It just not one of them turned out the way I wanted, and I was so bummed.
All right, so we still got a couple other questions. So thank you, Darth and Dominus, for that one. Next is from Very Epic Yeeter. It says, what's the best advice for a new toy photographer?
Shoot.
Yes, and
Shoot.
keep doing it.
Just keep shooting. Just like Dory. Just keep swimming. Just keep shooting. Just keep shooting. Just keep shooting.
It's true, though.
The more you shoot, the better you feel. You know, no, it's literally the more you shoot. I think you're gonna get to know your equipment. You're gonna get to know your lighting. You're gonna get to know those scenarios better. You're gonna get comfortable. Even photographers that actually shoot, like I mentioned this older photographer, Dean Collins. When you met with Dean Collins, if you like say Colin Powell, you get 3 minutes with Colin Powell. That's it. So this guy would shoot with stand-ins, everything on location, had it all worked out, lighting diagram, and he knew his craft to the point when that guy got off his plane, walked up literally he came up the escalator, boom, went on to the meeting. That was it. That's all he had of his time. That's cool. The utter professional he was. And so the more you shoot, the better you're going to understand how to deal with it. Maybe you're not shooting something professional, right? And you're just shooting for fun, but you're going to start knowing better how to shoot. Your situations will be better. Your lighting will be better. Your posing, you're going to learn what doesn't work. And to be honest, Yoda always said, you learn from your failures too, right? That is the greatest teacher.
Failure is.
Failure is one's greatest teacher. And I live by little Yoda isms because that is true. Fail.
It is.
Fail at something. It's okay. Pick yourself back up by your bootstraps and keep shooting. There's nothing you want to do, and every professional will tell you this. You don't want to experiment on a job. Ever. The Dean Collins story I brought up where you have 3 minutes to shoot with somebody, he did all that prep work. So when that guy came up and literally he had 3 minutes from the time of shaking his hand to the moment he was leaving to capture his famous portrait. And it was done in 3 minutes because he did all that homework ahead of time. So the more shooting you do in anything, you're going to know how to adapt to a situation because you can be proactive and reactive, and you'll know what you need to be in that situation the more you shoot. So please, one thing, shoot.
It's true. That's like the exact same kind of advice I always give when everyone asks me that question. Keep shooting. You learn, improve.
We all
every
shoot.
Time.
Here's this. I don't go into a shoot. I was never like a Richard Avedon where I came into a shoot, click, and walked off the set like threw the camera in the air like Austin Powers, got the shot. You know. No one does that. Come on. That's in the movies. That's in Austin Powers. When we're shooting, we'll shoot 500 images for one, right?
Yep.
That's the real deal. You're going to shoot different angles. You might tweak the light. You might tweak the subject. So just shoot. The more frames you take, the better you're going to be.
Yep. You're going to learn and improve every time.
There's no secret to that. So just shoot. Have fun doing it too.
It's the best advice.
Everything. You know, I remember seeing other photographers and you try, like someone asked earlier, how do you find your style? Are you copying someone's style? Are you doing? No, because everything's been done before. Let's face it. You go back to Cartier-Bresson and any of those, history of photography. They've all been done. So go out and just have fun and shoot everything. Because just because Richard Avedon shot it, or this famous person, or Sirdork or Pat Connor shot it, doesn't mean it's the world. Staple on the image. You shoot it for yourself. Shoot it for yourself. Yep. Because now you put your spin on it.
It's true. So Very Epic Eater. That's a great, fantastic question. And so thank you for sending that one in. So I think we've got like 2 more. Next is from Scout Trooper Yeti. Says, when you feel uninspired, what do you do to get back in the groove?
That's a very good question.
Comes up a lot. It's an important one.
Yeah, that is a good one. All right. Last week, I got a little uninspired. Okay. I just had a lot going on last week, right? But I knew I had to get and typically I'll try to put 2 images out a week, like 2 videos, 2 images. And at one point I was doing every other day. Well, for a lot of that's why I had a lot. I was doing every other day. And I started to burn out a little bit by doing that. So start knowing when you're getting burned out, right? You're shooting too much, when you start to get uninspired, start watching things that pique your interest again. Watch someone else's work, get inspired by them.
Yes, that's great.
I started shooting the Bad Batch pops and scrapped the entire shot. I think I only populated one of tech, where I kind of did, it was a take. I was going to do the whole series. It was going to be a take on the 80s style portraits. You might have seen it in Step Brothers with the one looking this way and then
absolutely.
So I did tech like that. I was going to do the whole gang, but I only did the one because I saw someone's piece of art on where they did like painter style portraits. So it made me go back and reshoot what I was doing because of that. So sometimes even when you think you're in a direction and you might see something else that like I saw a painting of the Bad Batch portraits and I said, oh, I'd like that. And so I went in, did the splatter behind it, took the image, cropped it, and then said, okay, does that kind of looks like the image, but as a Funko Pop, almost like this artist did. So that's where, and I haven't even finished it. It was like, I was uninspired by what I was shooting when I saw something even cooler, reshot it. But then, like anything, I want to shoot something else. Like I know I started shooting the droids and I couldn't think, why am I shooting BB-9E and BB-8 right now? And I said, oh, that's right, because I was looking for R5 because I watched a recent episode of The Mandalorian and I meant to shoot it, but I couldn't find him at the ready. And I saw that and I was like, huh, and I just picked that up. So sometimes that's the inspiration, you watch something, you see something. But I think watching other creators or creative people
definitely
on Instagram
always
gets me inspired. Watching what other creative people do, or watch something, maybe it's something in Star Wars I watch.
Watch something you love. That's really great advice. Really, really great advice. Scout Trooper Yeti, great, really great question and very important question for sure. All right, so this is the last one of the night from Seriously Star Wars. It says, have you thought about selling prints of your images?
I have, and I'm thinking of. So I don't know who you sell your prints through somebody, don't you?
Yeah.
So I was thinking of doing something like that. But I'm trying to also look into it. I wanted to do mine on metal prints. I thought, how could I do something cool and unique? Because I shoot Star Wars Funko, so what can kind of make it even more enticing as opposed to just a print? I'm looking at either doing disc plates or Bay Photo Labs does photos onto metal. So I'd like to do metal prints.
That sounds awesome.
I just think that the surface will lend for the type of images I'm shooting. Will have a nice look to them. So I'd like to. I'm looking at doing display and maybe becoming like an affiliate with them. I don't know yet.
That sounds amazing.
Oh, thank you, Sorry Speed. I'm thinking of doing something more like that. And then hindsight 2020 is I meant to do a calendar. And so I was trying to share the images of a group of friends and they couldn't see them and it just kind of time had passed. And so now I'm like, okay, do you make a calendar now? No, but I'm going to have one for next year. So I'm going to have a calendar. And I think that's something I want to do every year is to have a calendar out, things like that. Something that's going to be used. People can enjoy them. And it's a way to get my images out in front of other people that just like.
Yeah, that's a really great idea.
So that is where I'm looking to go.
Really cool goals.
So I've been trying to look and again, trying to find what, because my images, a lot of them are shot like 16:9. So I want to make sure I can try to capture that. And also the hardest part is whittling them down. I know I've got asked a couple times, what's my favorite? It's hard to say because sometimes I feel my favorite image hasn't been photographed yet. Right?
That's good.
I'm constantly shooting. So like every time I like, all right, 50 images. And that's it. Like I have a gift
That's
card
so
for
weird.
mix tiles for 20 mix tiles that I haven't even used yet because
What I
I
would
can't
do-
decide on the final 20.
What I would do for choosing the right ones to get sold is, and this is what I try to do because I'm trying to print ones for other people to want. And so I would just go through and pick like what you think are the most popular characters, because those ones are ultimately going to sell the best, because those are the ones that people are going to see and connect
They're
with
looking
the most.
for it too. Yeah.
Like, oh, I love Darth Maul. Boom. And that's just what I try to do in my experience. But even though that's not always the easier thing, since I love this picture of Darth Maul, but like I really like this picture of this obscure character that not a lot of people are going to want to buy. So,
True that.
Yep.
Like I love the Ugnaught, but not many people are going to go look.
Yeah.
At Ugnaught, right?
I
You
love
never
that
know.
shot.
You get someone that likes this certain little offbeat, quirky character. You never know.
Well, seriously, Star Wars. First of all, thanks for being in the chat for so much
Thank you,
today,
guys.
and thanks for
Yeah.
the question. So, Pat, okay, well, I have one more question that I love to ask before we end. So, what is one character? So I guess it'll probably be Star Wars. That usually I'll say, what is one character that does not yet exist in action figure form that you want or you need?
I
But
know.
so let's turn to the Funko route. What's one character that
Okay.
you want?
I know right off. I know exactly who it
All right,
is.
go for it.
Asajj Ventress.
There's
I
no
want an Asajj
Ventress
Ventress
Funko?
Funko Pop. No, she's about to get released as a Funko Soda.
But there's not a
Funko
pop of her?
No. And like, dude, Hasbro did like Unleashed line that looked badass with her.
Oh yeah, that was
Like,
awesome. That was a
looked
while
so
ago.
dope. Like, I have been hashtag for Asajj Ventress, justice for Asajj Ventress. Like,
That's crazy.
how is she getting a Funko Soda without a freaking Funko Pop yet?
Yeah, that's well, I mean, it's gonna happen. You know it's gonna happen. It's bound to happen.
How do
eventually.
we not have a battle damaged Darth Vader?
That surprises me too,
Like,
especially.
Dude,
I mean, there's.
create this sucker.
It's not like he just appeared in Kenobi
Well,
too.
the crate
had-
one. The crate one, because you don't have like. Come on.
Yeah, that's
Anyone
awesome.
that had some, this is like take my money. Like,
Yeah.
you find a Funko fan that wouldn't want that, right?
Yeah, I can't believe both of
I'm
those.
like, come on.
No, I don't
But
keep
I
up
am
with Funko so
excited.
much, so I
This
assume that they did.
project, this project though led me to like, okay, would I ever do a custom Funko Pop? In a million years, no. But when I kept wanting to photograph that. Like, that was such an iconic scene. I'm like, I want to photograph that. I want to photograph that. I'm like,
It's so weird.
damn it to hell. I went and bought the 2 pops, chopped it up with my neighbor. My neighbor cut his finger pretty well doing it too. Got it put together, and then I'm like, that came out pretty cool.
Yeah, it did.
You
Came
know,
out perfect.
So now I'm like, okay, if I'm ever going to do another one, I already know. So Sire Speed was on here earlier, and I had mentioned to him because I was going to try to get his an extra remnant trooper, but I'm going to take a remnant, one of the ones from those Mando mystery boxes. I'm going to get the remnant stormtrooper. I'm going to cut his helmet open, and he's going to look like the Death Trooper from the comic, the zombie one.
Ooh, yes.
And I'm going to use, there's a Deadpool where half his face is exposed out of it. So I'm going to cut that face out,
Nice.
put that underneath.
What's the name of that virus where that happens from Legends? Someone help in the live chat if you can think of it.
I
But
can't remember it.
that's a great idea. That's a great idea.
But yeah,
Cool.
it was fun. And that's kind of what I want to do. That's the next one I want to do for a custom is that. And I want to have something to photograph for Halloween, and I don't want to depend on Funko to do Funko style, like
Right.
where it's orange or this. Like, that would be cool. That would be a cool character to see as a pop. So I'm gonna make one myself just to have it. And
All right.
I had so much fun doing this little guy. So I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna do these all the time, but once in a blue moon. The only other one I want to try to do a custom of is I want to do Ezra Bridger with the helmet up for the biker scout.
Oh, that's a
give him
great
the biker
idea.
scout and be able to somehow have the helmet so it's up and you can see his face.
With he's got to have a green lightsaber.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be really
Absolutely.
cool.
And the other one that I've wanted is from Tales, that first Inquisitor or whatever, the first brother, that it kind of looked like Khonshu from Moon Knight.
Yeah, with
that
the
fought
bird
Ahsoka.
skull. Yeah, that was really cool.
That was an
design.
insane. I put it this way: I have it queued up on Disney Plus pause, so anytime I want to watch it, it's queued up, ready to go. Boom, right to that.
Sweet.
The music, the scene is just awesome. That character, like,
Yeah.
please make him a Black Series figure for all the collectors of figures, because I want to see more pictures. I've seen tons of customs of him, but please make him a Funko Pop. He was awesome.
I would I love all of those. That's a great answer.
Even the Tales of the Jedi version of Dooku would be cool.
That would be really
a
cool.
Young looking Dooku, because just the way they when they did that new Chris Sanson, that the detail and all they did on him, like, could you see how smooth he would look in that animated, slightly like they did a Jar Jar, like the Clone War style. They did that slightly a little more animated look, and it looks smooth. And he's younger. That would look nice.
That'd be great.
Lightsaber, brown cloaks.
Well, they're definitely not going to stop putting out Funkos anytime soon. So I honestly believe you'll get every single one of those.
I'm hoping.
Well, all right, man. Thanks so much for coming on. Any other things you want to plug before we call it?
All right, so I'll shamelessly plug my channel.
Yes, do it.
No.
Anyone
and everyone, please, if you want to come and just see some creative Star Wars Funko Pop images, I do some BTS of those, as well as what's in a box, kind of like my version of unboxing. Check me out, Toy Photographer, TOYPHOTOGFR.
It's all in the description.
Spelled like a license plate. And if I'm not there, I'm usually filming Popcast, the Star Wars Popcast, with my friends from Seriously Star Wars Christopher. We do those once a week. They usually air on Mondays, and that's on YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So wherever you find your podcast media, that's where we are, and that's kind of what I do. And thank you all for subscribing, joining, coming on tonight, inviting me on, Jared. That was super cool. Super awesome. And this is like really crazy for me to you. I'm telling you, having watched you and see where you are, and then to be on here with you tonight, it's just kind of crazy. I would have never 2 years ago watching your videos say that I would have ever been on a video chatting with you. Like, that would have been no way.
That's great. I'm so glad.
This is really crazy. And again, to the toy photography community, you guys kick ass. I just love you guys all. My friends of the Fulcrum Network, they've been really great, instrumental for me, pushing me to do more content. I originally just going to slap an image, put it on social media, and call it a day. But those are the guys that said, no, you should put this on YouTube. You should really do this. You really have something, and it's a lot of fun. And we, why don't you show how you do it? And so it was my friends pushing me to, show more.
Good. So I'm glad they did.
I am too, because it's inspired me. Again, I feel like I'm following the steps of my teacher, my Obi-Wan, Chip Ferrelli, and Nancy Ori, by teaching, going forward with the Yoda-isms. So thank you again. Thank you guys for having me on. It was awesome.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, man. And if you're not following, please do. All his information to follow and all this stuff, just links right in the description. Make sure you do that. So cool. Well, everyone, thanks so much for watching. And Pat, thank you again, my man. So cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. See you guys later.
This is so much fun. Thank you guys.